This week on The Real Housewives of Potomac.
Let's just be 100. I'm fine with it. I'm not here to start an argument or fuss and fight. More of my concern was the fact that I want you to be careful with that whole situation. Because here's the thing. I know how messy he is. And
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, Episode 9. Let's get right into this. Alright, so we pick up at this messy party. So it's the Reasonably Unshady party to celebrate Gizelle and Robyn's podcast hitting 10 million downloads, even though Robyn wasn't there. How do you not show up to your own party? So we pick up, the drama was just getting started. Kay was saying to Stacey, I would never trust you around my husband. And Stacey says, you don't have one. So Kay starts acting very strange. Well, you don't have one either. Where is Themo? Where is Timo? And then Gizelle says, yeah, Stacey can't be trusted with husbands. So they have the idea of having Charrisse call Chris. Just as a quick recap, the reason this whole entire fight is happening is because Kay claims that when Monique Samuels was sharing and was being vulnerable about why she and Chris got a divorce, it was said with Kay and Cookie that Stacey called Chris to tell him everything. So that's what the issue is, just to remind everyone. So they have an idea of calling Chris. So Charrisse calls him because Charrisse is actually friends with Chris. So she calls him, he picks up, and she's like, hey, you're being talked about. Did Stacey call you to tell you things that Monique was saying about you? And Chris doesn't want any part of it, so he's like, I don't know what y'all talking about. And he, again, wants no parts in it, so they kind of just leave it at that. Now, Charrisse, after that, does tell some of the ladies that she and Stacey were hanging out not too long ago. They were talking to these guys, and Stacey was flirting with a particular one. And then later, that man's friend, who Stacey was flirting with, says to Stacey, hey, my friend is actually married. To which Stacey responds with, what does that have to do with me? Oh. I believe Charrisse. I'm not going to go into detail, but I believe Charrisse. But anyway, the party continues. Gizelle then says to Wendy, Wendy, Angel came up to me all up in my face saying that you hating on her. So then Wendy's like, okay, where's she at? So then Angel gets there, and Wendy pretty much says that she's got no issue with Angel. It's Angel that's got an issue with her. And then Angel's like, well, here you go again with your dismissive attitude. And Wendy's like, well, here you go again being flat. Wendy says, and I also heard you were saying that I didn't say hi to you at the airport. Well, why didn't you say hi? So they start to go back and forth. And then Ashley says, well, Angel's also upset because about the catfish comment. So everybody's sort of reminding Angel, Gizelle made the catfish comment. Why are you mad at Wendy? She didn't make the comment. Gizelle did. And I said this last recap. I don't even like Wendy, but I'm still on her side on this situation because Angel is not really making any sense. She's entitled to her feelings, but her reasons and explanations do fall flat, like Wendy said. And, the way Wendy just eats Angel up and, just reads her down, she does it so well. And she does a great job of just dismissing her. She does it so easily. So then somehow Kay is still going at it with Stacey somewhere. Kay, it's something about Stacey that makes Kay go absolutely nuts, and she just looks goofy, screaming at Stacey, saying, I got a life, a business, a condo. And then Stacey's like, well, I have a husband and a ring, and you don't. And then Kay's like, well, your ring is cloudy. And then Stacey's like, well, that's better than nothing. And again, Stacey's another one. When it comes to her and Kay, she can get Kay together real quick, very easily as well. But at this point, Stacey feels like it's been enough. people coming at her, the entire party, so she decides to leave. She says goodbye. She is saying bye to some of the girls. I did think it was a little bit rude for Gizelle, whose party this is, to go up to Stacey and be like, bye. If you're gonna leave, then leave. Here, I'll help you. I'll press the elevator button. Gizelle, come on now. And then Gizelle says that after the things that she heard about Stacey tonight, she doesn't like them and she's gonna have to marinate on them. All right, so that was that party. Again, chaotic. So then we see the next scene of the next day with Stacey with her husband and, well, ex-husband and her daughter. It was a nice scene. You know, they're cooking, spending time together. He's definitely much more touchy-feeling, much more than TJ ever was. He isn't living with Stacey yet. She says that they're not putting any labels. It sounds a little confusing, but I mean, maybe they're just taking baby steps. I don't know. Stacey's working really hard as well on her new brand, her new business of gummies. Then moving along, we see Ashley and her mom, and Sheila comes over. I really like Ashley's mom for some reason. So Miss Sheila is there telling her, she's so proud of her. She asks Ashley, how are things going with Josh? So then Ashley gives all these reasons why she might not want to stay with him. But then they also talk about her mom's relationship, Miss Sheila's relationship. So Miss Sheila's still up and working, even 12 hours shifts some days. And what is her man doing? Nobody knows. Now, this is the same man, if y'all recall, back in the day when Michael was around. This is the same guy that they, at the time, were talking about was not a good guy for Sheila to be around. And I remember even they talked about, like, cutting Miss Sheila off if she stayed with this guy because he just wasn't good for her. Unfortunately, she's still with him. I do feel bad for Ashley. I can't imagine the frustration that she must feel that she can't really control that. Like, she can't get rid of this guy. And then Ashley also expresses how her mom needs to take care of herself and her health. And then Sheila says, like, yeah, she'd been sick a few days ago. So Ashley says that she really needs her mom to be okay because that's really all she has. She has no dad. So she needs her mom as much as, for as long as possible. All right, then moving along, Jazzy has some of the girls over at her home. She had some good food for them. Darius was even in the kitchen doing a little something. So she had Wendy and Stacey over, and they're talking about the party. Stacey says to them, do y'all notice how Kay is always coming for me? She always wants to have a moment. And then Wendy's like, yeah, definitely, but I think you should really meet up with Monique. And Stacey agrees to it. Now, meanwhile, Angel is at her house having the other girls over. So she's got Tia, Kay, Ashley, and Gizelle over. Angel says that she thinks that she and Bobby finally found the house that they're going to buy here in Potomac. It's 9 bedrooms. And this was basically a bash Stacey session. Gizelle started calling Stacey that she said that Stacey looked like a Cheeto at her party. Tia says that, Stacey has a web of lies. And then Gizelle says that for her, what really bothered her was, like, she said to them, y'all don't know Monique, but it took a lot for her to sit with us and share the truth about her past and her marriage. So for somebody, talking about Stacey, to then take that and go tell Chris, it's disgusting. The others agree. And then Ashley also thinks that there should be a sit down with Monique to have a real conversation. Now she wants Kay to go. So it looks like this sit down is definitely happening. All right, so then moving along, we get to see Greg's house, the new house that they were building. The house is nice. Kay was there, so was her mom and brother. I like them, they're cool. But she has an update for them. Greg asked her to move back into this house, the new one. Apparently, he also wants to purchase the condo that she has. He also mentioned buying a ring, but he kind of wants to know which is the priority. So then the mom's like, oh, wait a minute, you're going to get he's going to buy a condo before he buys a ring? And then Kay doesn't even know what to answer. Her poor mom is probably asking herself, what does this girl not understand? Why does she keep staying with this man? But you know what? It's her choice. It's free will. Listen, this got to be Kay's last season. Do y'all want to see Kay again next season? Let me know. I do not. All right, then moving along, we see a scene at Wendy's house. Her sister Ivy comes over. She gets to talk to her sister a little bit about their birth dad, who they don't really have a father or daughter relationship with. They recently took a trip to Nigeria, and he told them that he was ill, and they wanted to use this opportunity to maybe get close with him, but it seems like that hasn't worked out. He doesn't want to, which is upsetting to them. Then their mom shows up, Susan. Now, Susan looks like a different person every season. But the mom was there. She also touched on the subject. She tries to make them feel better, saying that they're successful. They talk about money, which, as we know, is a sensitive subject right now. They even take a look inside because Wendy is doing a lot of renovations inside of the home, which are definitely costing a lot. Alright, so let's get to the ending of this episode. So we get to see the sit down that happens with Ashley, Kay, Monique, Stacey, and Wendy. Now the first three there are Ashley, Kay, and Monique. And before the others get there, Kay and Ashley are already trying to influence Monique's mind and opinion about the situation, because they're saying to her, well, we heard that Stacey told Chris what you told us at the lunch right away. Now, Monique isn't really taking the bait right away. She's not fully trusting them, only because she doesn't fully trust Chris, and she definitely doesn't trust Cookie. And the both of them are involved in the situation. So then Wendy gets there, and Wendy is also explaining the situation, and she says that Stacey is adamant that she didn't call Chris. Wendy is telling Monique that at the event, that Charrisse had called Chris. And Monique's like, Charrisse? Like, why is Charrisse involved? But then Wendy's like, no, well, she called him because we wanted to hear directly from him if Stacey had called him and told him, and he said no. Now, Kay, I will say that Stacey doesn't want to have any conversation with you because she doesn't feel safe and comfortable with you. So Wendy relays that message to Kay. And then here go Kay. Well, I have zero interest in a fake fraud ass bitch. And Stacey makes her way as right as she's saying that. So Stacey gets there. Monique didn't seem to have any animosity towards Stacey, which is good. Then Stacey sits down and she says that she really wants to have this conversation with Monique and Wendy, and that's it. So then Kay chooses to leave to the bar. So she walks away. So it's just the four of them now. So they begin to talk. Monique's like, what's going on? This is what I've heard. What happened? So now Monique's under the impression that Stacey and Chris dated. Stacey says, I never dated Chris. And then Ashley's like, well, that's not what the word on the street, or like, that's not what the rumor is. But Stacey says no, that she never dated him. And then Monique says, did you not call him? And then Stacey takes out her phone, and that's when she begins to show how her and Chris even started communicating from the very beginning. So according to Stacey's phone, like according to the messages that she showed, Chris was the one hitting her up on the DMs, saying like, you look good, or like, shouldn't you be responding, and things like that. Now, so again, the texts that were shown, it's Chris hitting her up, sort of like trying to like get at her or whatever. In one of the texts, he says to Stacey, I heard my name's been coming up. So what everyone's taking out of this now is that there's been somebody telling Chris the stuff that's been going on in the group. I loved how they gave Wendy this little detective confessional thing where she goes down the line on who it could be. Her suspects are, Kay's the number one suspect because why is she even talking to Cookie? Angel, which, I don't think it was Angel. She is way too green for all this. And Gizelle. And maybe even Stacey. So, that's what that was. Anyway, regardless of all that, Monique says to Stacey that, look, she just needs to be careful with Chris. Because he is already trying to pull her into things. And if all of this is true, she says, I divorced him for a reason. So, just be careful. And that was the end of the episode. Okay, guys, this wasn't a boring episode. I wouldn't say it was boring at all. I just would say it wasn't interesting. I really don't care about Stacey and Chris because you know why? Monique doesn't even care about Chris and Stacey dating, or if they did, or if they are, or if they didn't. Ashley and the other ones are really like caught up on this, and I get it. If they do think that Stacey is lying, I guess it's understandable why they would want to like bring up the truth or whatever, but it's just too much at this point. And we're 9 episodes in. I'm going to need the direction of the season to move now, because if we're just going to keep on going after Stacey, I'm going to lose interest real quick. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let me know what y'all thought about this. Do y'all think Stacey told Chris? Is she lying about this whole situation, or is she not? Are they doing too much? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.